This is Power Hour with Gabriella Power.
Hello and welcome to Power Hour Deep Dive. I'm Gabriella Power. Thank you for joining us. There's a lot to unpack today as Operation Epic Fury enters its sixth day. President Donald Trump says that the military is demolishing the enemy well ahead of schedule. Also today, President Donald Trump fires Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. She's gone. And we'll take a look at the Democrats' new rising star, James Talarico, who's actually making Jasmine Crockett look good, would you believe it? Some of his past comments are coming to light. He's previously claimed that there are 6 genders and that there should be a welcome mat on our southern border. Good luck to the Democrats. Joining us to unpack this all is Sky News host Caleb Bond. Caleb Bond, thank you so much for joining me in the studio.
Pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be the sort of runner-up to Ben Fordham, who you had last week, you know. I mean, I've got big shoes to fill if I'm here after Fordo.
Well, can you believe that Fordham stormed out? Did you see that part?
I did.
I played the clip of Kamala Harris and he was gone.
Well, you know, I can't blame him, to be perfectly honest. But we'll see whether or not you can rile me up that much.
Well, we've got James Talarico and some of his comments, so I don't know how long you're going to be staying here.
We'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
But 6 genders. I mean, the guy's clearly a bigot. Doesn't he know there's like 73 of them or something?
It's crazy though. You know, I wonder if he's going to walk back those comments, because this is what happens. They make these comments and then they get slammed for it, and then they're just kind of in this no man's land, like Gavin Newsom, right?
Well, but this is the thing with Newsom, right? Like, he's changing his tune now. Like, he's talking now, clearly he's making a tilt for president, right?
Of course.
But he's now saying, you know, we need to think about the things that are important to people at home, the sort of tabletop politics, I think he called it, retail politics, which is cost of living and bills and, you know, where am I going to send my kids to school and this kind of thing. And basically admitting, you know, I've fallen into the trap of worrying too much about this silly left-wing gender stuff. I think he said, you know, I was at the forefront of the same-sex marriage debate.
Yes.
But he said it was a trap. So when you've got people like Gavin Newsom starting to realise, when they actually want to do something, that going that way doesn't work, it kind of tells you what the Dems must be seeing in terms of internal polling about what people are really thinking.
True, but do you think that they are really realising that, and then that's why they're kind of changing their politics and trying to present themselves as more centre? Or are they just trying to present themselves as more centre, get the votes, and then there you go, you actually get some far-left policies?
This is the thing, right? Do they really believe it? Nah, probably not. I'm glad they're engaging with the discussion, though, because it is an admission of some sorts that they've been crazy all along. Now, if you then say you're crazy and then you try to say, oh, well, I didn't mean it, we can talk about gender again, it won't work. You know, you've got to stick to your guns if that's what you're going to say. But it is rather delicious to see people like Newsom starting to acknowledge it.
It's taken a while though, hasn't it? But then it's funny, not everyone's getting there. We'll get into James Talarico in a moment. Let's start with Donald Trump. He is, of course, delivering this history-changing, brave, courageous operation in the Middle East. He's giving this operation a 15 out of 10. He said that America is ahead of schedule and American and Israeli military are demolishing the enemy. This is what the president had to say this morning.
But we have the greatest military anywhere in the world. Their Navy is gone. 24 ships in 3 days. That's a lot of ships. Their anti-aircraft weapons are gone. So they have no air force. They have no air defense. All of their airplanes are gone. Their communications are gone. Missiles are gone. Launches are gone. About 60% and 64% respectively. Other than that, they're doing quite well. I said, what's left? But they're tough, and they want to fight. And they're calling, they're saying, how do we make a deal? I said, you're being a little bit late, and we want to fight now more than they do. We've had 47 years, depending on the way you count it, but 47 years of horror with this group. And, you know, when you see somebody walking down the street without their legs, without the arms, whose face is so badly affected and hurt, it mostly came from 95% Soleimani and Iran. And we, other presidents, lived with it. I didn't live with it. And so Our people are doing a great job. Again, the greatest military anyone's seen.
So, Caleb, I think this is really such a huge part of Trump's legacy now, such a consequential decision, such a courageous decision. And of course, Democrats are not happy about it. But polling suggests that the MAGA base actually is getting behind Donald Trump.
Can I just say, before we talk about it seriously, the guy's just so funny.
Oh, isn't he?
Like, who could make war sound funny? But he just manages to do it. And he said the other day, I think he was asked about, how long the whole operation was going to go. And he said, about 4 weeks, that's how long we thought it would take out all the military leaders, but we've done that in a few days. So we're a bit ahead of schedule. It's just like, oh my God.
Unbelievable.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's amazing watching him in action. I think just before this operation, he was at Mar-a-Lago. I think he was doing the MAGA dance. The guy is unbelievable, barely sleeping, working around the clock, and then being able to joke around with reporters and deliver information like that. But what he's doing in Iran is so brave and so courageous.
Yeah, and this question about the MAGA base, right? Like, obviously, Trump said we're not going to get involved in these forever wars. He'd been very clear about that. But he's not an isolationist, nor is he an interventionist in the same sense that perhaps you've seen in previous US presidents. Like, I don't think he wants to go in there and be there for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years.
He knows that Americans have no appetite for that, and he doesn't want that either.
Exactly. And that, I mean, that's so the risk, right? If you mess that up, that's it. He's done, essentially. But he will do everything within his power to make sure it doesn't get to that point. Because all he wanted to do and what he wanted to achieve, clearly, is to basically neuter Iran in terms of its nuclear capabilities. Seemingly this would have done that. They've knocked off the Ayatollah along the way, which isn't a bad result. I mean, you've only got to look at Iranians around the world celebrating that and then wonder, how do you have people, mourning the Ayatollah and suggesting it's an illegal war and we shouldn't have gone in there? It's not like we've gone in there to create a vacuum that, someone else comes along worse and takes over. It is an effort to do the best thing, not only for the US and the West, but for the Middle East. And the Middle East is on board with this as well.
Exactly. And that's what Trump has been doing, getting the Middle East on board. I mean, it has been incredibly well planned. The Israelis deserve so much credit, for their intelligence, being able to carry out this operation. Everyone knew it was coming. They still kept the element of surprise. And I suppose the big question is what happens next, right? Everyone's asking that. Of course, things could go wrong. But the result is, the hopeful result would be that there is going to be a better outcome than what's been in place currently and what's been in place for decades. Trump's spoken about this new supreme leader of the reports saying that Ayatollah Khamenei's son should not be the new supreme leader. Trump says that they're wasting their time. Khamenei's son is a lightweight. Of course, Donald Trump has to say it like that. And I have to be involved in this appointment, just like Delcy Rodriguez in Venezuela. Khamenei's son is unacceptable to me. We want someone that will bring harmony and peace to Iran. So again, on this question of who that would be, what that would look like, it seems that Trump would want kind of an interim government. Maybe democracy is too much to ask for, but an interim government, in the short term.
I mean, this is the most difficult part of the operation, right? Because it's one thing to knock off a leader. It's another entirely to suggest that you have the ability or the right to be part of the replacement of that. And probably the most likely form in which that happens, if it is to happen, is as part of negotiations. I mean, I found it amusing this week around basically saying, we're not entering any negotiations now. What have they got? Like, what does Iran have to play with here? They've been decimated, and the IRGC has been decimated by Israel and the US. The rest of the Middle East hates them. Basically, the rest of the world hates them. They're having
lefties.
Yeah, well, that's right. But they're
feminists.
Well, that's it. I mean, they can go and move there, as far as I'm concerned. They're having their nuclear capabilities destroyed. So, what does Iran think that it has to negotiate with the US? Basically, nothing. So unless they want to be completely wiped off the map, and I don't mean Iran itself, but the leadership, then they've kind of got to come to the table at some point. And that is presumably where Trump will try to have a say in who the next leader is. But, as with like Afghanistan, for instance, the US went in there. We saw what happened when Biden pulled out and left all the weaponry behind. The Taliban came back. So when you go in and start these things, you have to be able to finish them. Like you can't just leave vacuums, because those vacuums inevitably get filled with something even worse. People will take an opportunity, never waste a crisis, essentially. But can you have wholesale regime change? I don't think so. Yeah. Unfortunately, I wish you could, but I don't think so.
Well, it will be interesting to see what happens, but I'm very confident that the president has a plan. I mean, he knows this better than anyone, and knows that that is the question, right? What's going to happen next? And I don't think he's going to do a Biden. I don't think he wants his legacy to be as disastrous as Joe Biden's. But we've heard from the Democrats just being so upset that, the Iranian people are the closest they've been to liberation in a very long time. Kamala Harris is upset that this action's being carried out in Iran. So is Elizabeth Warren, and she's insisting that she will fight as hard as she can to end the war. Let's listen to Elizabeth Warren.
I just left a classified briefing on Iran, and here's what I can say. It is so much worse than you thought. You are right to be worried. Trump administration has no plan in Iran. This illegal war is based on lies, and it was launched without any imminent threat to our nation. Donald Trump still hasn't given a single clear reason for this war, and he seems to have no plan for how to end it either. Like a lot of you, I am really angry. I am angry at what Donald Trump is doing, and I feel grief for those already killed in this unnecessary conflict. And I will keep doing everything I can to fight to end this war.
Again, Caleb, we've just seen Iranians celebrating, chanting, "Thank you, Donald Trump," and then Elizabeth Warren thinks she's saving the world, posting a video like that to Instagram.
But what does she think she's actually saving? What, the Ayatollah, the mullahs?
Exactly.
Like, that's what I don't get. It's, chickens for KFC, turkeys for Christmas, gays for Palestine, or queers for Palestine, or whatever they call themselves. Like, why is there this sort of murderous, self-murderous, suicidal trait within the left that they seem to love everything that hates them? I mean, Elizabeth Warren wouldn't survive a minute in Iran or any of these places. And yet she and so many seem to be leaping to the defence of Iran's honour or the Ayatollah's honour as though it's some terrible thing that the bloke's had his head blown off by the US. Who cares? I mean, you've only got to see, as you say, the Iranians celebrating in the street. What about the fact that he had 30-odd thousand of his own people killed because they dared to demonstrate in the street against his regime? And this is, if you demonstrated in Australia or the US or the UK against the president or the Prime Minister, I mean, people would probably walk past you in the street and go, "Oh, geez, okay, what's he on about?"
Exactly.
You can't do that in Iran. You get killed. And then you have people in democratic countries, particularly, this is what annoys me, politicians and journalists in particular. And like we've seen the coverage from the New York Times this week, in their obituary of the Ayatollah, basically saying he turned the Iran into a world superpower, or put it on the map.
Unbelievable. That was the headline.
Yeah, that's the headline. It's like, of all the things you could have said about the guy, the Washington Post, their obit wasn't much better. You had to get, I think, from memory, it was like 11 or 12 paragraphs in before they mentioned anything about the Ayatollah killing his own people. So you've got politicians and journalists running cover for the Ayatollah, who are people who make their living out of the fact that freedom of speech and democracy exists, right? Elizabeth Warren doesn't have a job. Well, she might get another job. I don't know what she's qualified for. But she doesn't have a job as it currently stands in a country that's not democratic. A journalist, unless they are, running cover for the regime, you don't have a job in a place like Iran because you don't have the freedom to do your job. And these are the very people we see seemingly upset about the fact that the Ayatollah's been knocked off and that we're tackling Iran. I mean, of all people, they should be the ones saying, yes, bring it on.
Absolutely right. Yet the Washington Post, I read that piece from them, describing Khamenei as having he has a bushy beard and an easy smile.
Like
he
his
liked
Father
poetry.
Christmas or something. Yeah.
I mean, what a romantic way.
He really liked Les
describe a
Miserables,
killer.
apparently. I mean, you know, he's just an everyman.
It's absolutely unbelievable. This other thing with the Washington Post as well, so some of their reporting, it's just been terrible. And then you've heard Kamala Harris taking to the streets, it's a bit extreme, but speaking to reporters, saying how much she is against this. And then what do you make of this response from Starmer, just so slow to help the US out? Now, Donald Trump has, I think, rightfully unleashed on Keir Starmer, saying he's no Winston Churchill. And the reports are today that
the bleeding obvious.
Ain't that the truth? Also saying he was a loser with no future. I think a lot of Britons would agree with that.
Well, he is a loser with no future. Well, he's a winner in the sense that he won government, but he'll lose it next time. So, you know, he's a sort of future loser. And that's right, he does have no future. I've got to look at the polls over there just to see that, right?
Even lower.
Oh, I know, it's
17%,
terrible.
17%, now it's 16%. Well done, Keir
And he's
Starmer.
stuffed from both angles because he's got the Greens coming in from one side to the left of him, and then he's got Reform coming in from the right, and the guy's got nothing left. I was having lunch on Tuesday with the guys over from London at the moment, and he just said, I cannot believe how quickly Keir Starmer has managed to just totally destroy the massive majority that he built up. I mean, you'd think, you know, you win 400 odd seats, it was a serious majority, that you'd have a few terms of government at least. It ain't going to be like that. And the way that Sir Keir was behaving this week is sort of, it tells you why it's not going to be like that. How in a moment where you've taken out a theocratic, dictatorial, murderous leader, do you not just turn around and go, yeah, that was actually good for the world?
No, he was so quick to say, I wasn't involved.
Yeah.
UK was not involved. He was so proud to say that he had nothing to do with this historic operation.
And did you see that footage of him? He was in a room full of Muslim leaders.
Yes, I did.
And he could not say quick enough that this was nothing to do with him. It kind of tells you where the UK's at, right?
Oh.
Like it's not so much about what is right. It's about what do I need to do to shore up votes. And the UK now has a large Muslim population. And so, I mean, he's just reading the polling and the politics and going, okay, well, if I can shore up an interest group, maybe it'll buy me some votes. Well, for what other reason would you walk into a room and say, yeah, knocking off the Ayatollah is not something I was on board with?
No, he's absolutely pathetic.
And once you're beholden to interest groups, whether it be a Muslim group or any other group for that matter, if you as the leader of an entire nation sort of feel like you're beholden to an interest group, you're not ruling for the nation anymore, are you?
No, exactly right. And I think Britons are so angry. I mean, we've seen them protesting, over the last, say, 12 months. But you look at their crime crisis, the numbers are out of control. I know he's trying to control it and it's not working. We've got people who are in the highest tax bracket fleeing Britain in record numbers. The crime in London is out of control. And, Donald Trump is such an incredible leader, really changing the globe, trying to take out the world's largest sponsor of terrorism. And what does the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer do? So I'm not involved and takes days to actually help the US out.
I mean, it's a sad day, isn't it, when the Australian government, people like the Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and the Foreign Minister Penny Wong, are seemingly stronger on this stuff than Sir Keir Starmer.
And I've got to give them credit for that, even though they didn't credit Israel.
No,
but they didn't credit Israel's the work that Israel is doing.
At least they've backed it in.
Yes, and they were quick to do that.
And when we talk about Sir Keir, you've got to keep in mind, this is the same guy who last year, towards the end of last year, started talking about immigration. And again, it goes to the point that he's just reading the polls and thinking, okay, what do I need to do to shore up votes? In this case, it's say, I don't support the war. Well, he hasn't gone that far, but basically it's just he has no involvement in it because that plays to certain groups. But when he saw the polling for Reform last year, at some point he decided, okay, I need to talk about immigration. And he got up and said, we risk becoming an island of strangers. I mean, how is this the same man who was talking about we become an island of strangers if we let migration go too far and we don't have integration because, of course, the strength of a nation like the UK is that we're an open and free society. And then a few months down the line, when they take out one of the blokes, the most serious blokes in the world against the idea of a free society, nothing to do with it. I mean, you got to pick a lane, buddy.
Flip-flops. Now, I was speaking to a guest earlier in the week saying, well, he says that, I was speaking to someone earlier in the week and they were saying one thing with Keir Starmer that you can almost bet on is that he'll always do a U-turn. So whatever he's saying today, he'll say something different tomorrow and does not say so much about him and what a weak leader.
Well, on the U-turn thing, I mean, you could say not only is he not Winston Churchill, he's not Margaret Thatcher. Yeah. Because, of course, you turn if you want to, but the lady's not for turning.
Donald Trump gets criticised of, he's lying, he doesn't have a plan. But Trump's in a completely different category. I mean, he's the man behind art of the deal. I mean, there's always a kind of a method to the madness, I would argue. So we're hearing people in the media saying, Donald Trump doesn't have a plan. He said that they were negotiating and now we're striking. It's like, well, if you actually pay attention, obviously Iran was never going to come to the table in these negotiation deals and just say, no worries, like no plans for nuclear weapons. So of course this was going to happen. But Donald Trump, I think, keeps his enemies guessing, and that's what's so important. And he is unpredictable, but that's a strength of his, unlike Keir Starmer that just is two steps behind every step of the way.
Well, the unpredictability is Trump's trump card, as it were, and it always has been. He's unconventional, but it works. I mean, the guy just keeps getting results.
And he's authentic. And he energises people, as you say, making... How's he funny while he's speaking about a war? He brings people on board. MAGA base is right behind him, and Iranian people, of course, been busting out the YMCA dance moves all over the world, which has been great to see. I want to talk to you about what else has been happening in the United States with some big news there, with Donald Trump firing Kristi Noem, of course, the Homeland Security Secretary. Trump wrote on Truth Social, "I'm pleased to announce that the highly respected United States Senator from the great state of Oklahoma, Mark Wayne Mullen, will become the United States Secretary of Homeland Security effective of March 31, 2026. The current Secretary, Kristi Noem, who has served us well and has had numerous and spectacular results, especially on the border, will be moving to Special Envoy for the Shield of the Americas, our new security initiative in the Western Hemisphere we are announcing on Saturday in Florida. I thank Kristi for her service at Homeland. Caleb Bond, look, I think this is obviously a good move by Donald Trump. I don't think Kristi Noem handled the ICE Minnesota crisis very well. Of course, 2 people were tragically killed. I know that's disputed because maybe they were disrupting law enforcement operations.
There's no dispute over the fact they were killed and it was a bad look regardless of the circumstances.
And they didn't handle that well at all. And now earlier this week she was grilled over her handling over those shootings in Minneapolis and also her use of public funds. She reportedly signed off on an ad featuring herself mostly, which cost taxpayers more than $200 million. And then there are also reports of this affair. But looking at Trump's team, I think she's been struggling for a while. And I think this seemed almost inevitable, I think, when Trump brought in Tom Homan to Minnesota. It
started on a bad tone, didn't it, when... Didn't she write in her book that she shot her dog or something?
Oh, I missed that.
So, I think that sort of set the tone from the very beginning. When you've got $220 million on an ad, in which she is like dressed up as a cowgirl riding on horseback, and this is part of I think this is what ultimately brought her undone, apart from the affair stuff, which had been sort of floating around for a while. But seemingly she lied about the circumstances in which this ad was made because she suggested that she had received the permission of Donald Trump in order to make it and spend $220 million. And Trump apparently was unaware that he had ever had this conversation with Ms. Noem. I mean, you can't
stupid stuff,
you can't go around saying, "Oh yeah, I spent $220 million at the behest of the president," when the president is not aware that he's ever given you permission to do so.
And then publicly say, "Oh yeah, Trump's got my back. He signed off on that." He's
like you're kind of signing your own death warrant, aren't you?
100%.
And then you get what's the title he's given her? A special envoy for the Shield of Americas or something.
That's it.
I mean, that's
Shield
just
of Americas.
That's just gardening leave, isn't it? That's just gardening leave.
She's been fired.
Why?
She's gone.
But why is he keeping her on in any capacity? Why didn't he just let her loose? Like,
that's true.
You know, sure, they've done a reasonable job in terms of cleaning up illegal migration. But as you say, she handled Minnesota badly, and then it took the intervention of Trump to do something about that, sending Homan in and sending the bloke that they had stationed in Minnesota back because it was just becoming too much. If you can't make those calls yourself, I mean, this is the equivalent of a minister in any other sort of Westminster government. If you can't make those calls yourself and you're relying on the president to make those calls for you, then what's the point of you? Like, that's why the president has you, to make those calls so he doesn't have to. I don't know why he's keeping her on at all.
Yeah, it's such an important portfolio, and then it was one death, and then just, what was it, less than a month later, there was a second death, and then they handled it terribly with, I think, their communication around that. I want to talk about a Democrat, actually, James Talarico. He beat Jasmine Crockett this week in the Democratic Senate race for Texas, and now some of his old comments have come out, and let's just take a look at these, Caleb.
They're going to throw everything they have at us. They're going to call me a radical leftist.
Our trans community needs abortion care too.
God is non-binary.
Modern science obviously recognizes that there are many more than two biological sexes. In fact, there are 6.
Prison is violence. It's hard to imagine a world without prison. Just because it's hard to imagine doesn't mean you shouldn't.
So, Caleb, God is non-binary, 6 genders. This wasn't in the clip, but he's reportedly said that, we should have a welcome mat out at the southern border, just as Kristi Noem, even though we were criticising her, did a good job with Trump closing it. I mean, what is it with the Democrats?
God is non-binary. It's probably news to God, to be perfectly honest. But which of the 6 genders do you think God would identify as when he wakes up in the morning? You know, which one am I going to be? Which are the 6 genders, by the way?
I don't know.
Define what the 6 genders are. I mean, as I said earlier, I thought there was like 72 or 73 of these bloody things. Or is it infinite? You can have as many genders as you want. I mean, look. Why can't I'm in this mug here is Diet Coke. Can I identify as Diet Coke? I don't know. Like, how do you just cut it off at 6 genders? I think there are people out there who would say that Talarico is a bigot and he needs to go and look in the mirror and sort himself out. Because you know what? They're the 7th gender and they're really offended that Talarico would say there are only 6 genders. Maybe I'm the 7th gender, you know? Bond is the gender. For goodness sake, these people not listen to themselves? How can you seriously say there are 6 genders? Because if there are 6, there could be 7 or 8 or 9 or on and on we go. And I love that one at the end. The
prison one?
Yeah,
the prison one. He said,
just because it's hard to imagine, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't.
We should imagine.
I mean, I can imagine a world
without prisons.
I can imagine a world without prisons. Sounds pretty bloody awful to me. I mean, imagine all these people walking around, you know, nuts out of their brains, murdering, raping, carrying on, stealing. I mean, if you want a world in which you'll have your house broken into all the time, otherwise known in Australia as Victoria. You can just have a world without prisons. Like, are these people serious?
Absolutely wild. I know, and they say all these crazy things, but then when it comes to their personal decisions, I mean, imagine buying a house, raising a family, and you find out your neighbour's killed someone. No worries. Doesn't matter that we don't have prisons.
This is the thing.
Come on over.
I'm happy for them to have like the whole prisonless world and all this stuff, as long as they're gonna like house them. Same with the illegal immigrants. If you want to take them in at your house, that's fine. Go for your life. Billie Eilish a few weeks ago saying, no one is illegal on stolen land, when of course she has a heavily fortified mansion.
A gate.
Isn't it? It's funny how these people...
Gated.
Yes, of course.
Gated mansion.
It's funny how these people live in another world.
Billie Eilish didn't let in that reporter. I don't know if you saw
Ben Leo
doing some good work there. Saying, look, I just wanted to have a chat, have a cup of tea.
Yes.
Maybe stay over. I don't know if he said that, but he should be allowed to.
Well, it's stolen land, isn't it? I mean, if she's stolen it, why why can't he go and squat on it? They kicked Drew Pavlu out of the US as well when he tried to go over there because he'd put the GoFundMe or whatever up saying, I'm going to go and visit Billie Eilish's property.
And then he couldn't get into America because they've got borders. And, that's the thing with the Democrats and then some of the Hollywood elite. They will keep going with this nonsense without realising really what on earth they're saying. Tim Walz has faced questions this week. He was being asked questions about the allegations regarding fraud in his state. He failed to answer really much at all. He still couldn't answer what a woman is.
What is a woman? Have you learned that lesson? Do you know what a woman is?
I'm the governor of Minnesota, Congressman.
You know what a
I'm
woman
not here
is.
to be your prop for your obsession.
So
I
if you
taught
can't
middle school
define
your
what
obsession.
a woman is, you certainly can't define what fraud is. If you can't even define what a woman is, you can't define fraud.
So Caleb, he still won't answer that very basic question, but maybe I'm wrong. Because maybe James Talarico is right. Maybe there are 7 genders as the bond, so you can't say what a woman is.
No, he can't define what a woman is. I mean, how could you define what a woman is if there are 6 of them? Seriously. If they want to keep going down this road, be my guest. Be my guest, because we're going to have like JD Vance for president in 2028, if this is what they're going to do. It doesn't work. Like, I'm sorry, there might be a small number of like wacko lefties who buy into this stuff. But no one cares. I mean, who's going home at night and going, oh my God, are there 6 genders out there? What if my kid turns out to want to be a cat or something? Like, this is not real life. This is not what's happening. If you can't define what a woman is, you're just living in a different world to the rest of us. Like, lay off whatever drugs you're taking and come and talk to the rest of us, please.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's just amazing after all this time. I mean, it's an 90-10 issue, really, as you say. They're not in the real world, but some will let it go or will move around a bit like Gavin Newsom, like we were speaking about earlier. But Tim Walz, though, no, he's far left and he will refuse to say what a woman is.
Well, it's International Women's Day this weekend,
So
I can't
struggle with that.
How do we still have International Women's Day? I mean,
what about the other?
What's a woman?
Well, also, what about the other genders?
Well, correct.
Where's
their day?
Yeah, exactly.
I think there is actually an International Men's Day, but no one talks about it. But then we need to have an international day for every one of these other genders. Apparently, there's only 6 of them, so we can have 6 international days. Like, it just makes a mockery of real life, doesn't it?
So, looking at 2028, we've obviously got a fair bit of time between now and then, but really front runners: Newsom, AOC, Kamala Harris.
Yeah, oh, God forbid. Actually, no, bring on Kamala again. I just
she's
love
to do it.
I'd love to see that. I hope she is the nominee, because she'll just be a total disaster. It would prove, wouldn't it, if they went with her again? Surely they can't, but if they went with her again, the Democrats are just completely fried. Like, they can't do that, can they?
She's also such a bad performer. She hasn't gotten any better.
No, she's awful. But she thinks she's brilliant. I mean, this is the problem with so many politicians, isn't it? Is that they have these, high and mighty ideas of who they are and what they can do. They ain't that good, but they're convinced they are. Like, the ego is just up here, and you can't tell them otherwise. And she just keeps embarrassing herself. I mean, it's good for us. It's entertaining.
It is entertaining.
But God forbid she ever had the nuclear codes. It's like Biden.
Well, this week, when we saw what happened with Trump's action in Iran, working in a joint operation with Israel, thank you, Israel. Israel's not getting enough credit. I just instantly thought, thank goodness he won that election in 2024, because imagine if Kamala Harris was in the White House right now. I doubt that all of those hostages would have been returned. I mean, the border would still be open. The illegals would still be there. I don't know, the DEI nonsense would be going on. I mean, look what Trump's been able to do at universities, just trying to stamp out anti-Semitism, doing a great job there. And now he's taking this incredibly brave action in Iran, toppling the head of the snake of the world's greatest state sponsor of terrorism. And, Kamala thinks that that's a bad thing, or she's just so against it. So it would be such a different world if she had won.
Well, the US would be in disarray. I mean, she was no better than Biden. Sure, she, was probably not demented per se, but she was really no better than Biden. They were a team. And if we're to believe that Biden wasn't all there and someone else was sort of running the show behind the scenes, how much of an involvement did Kamala have in that? And so you've got to ask the question, was the Biden presidency, in large part a Kamala Harris presidency? And we saw how that turned out.
Yeah.
So why would you think that she would do any different?
Well, she was the border czar, and then she claimed she wasn't the border czar, and then she claimed she had been to the border, and then she revealed she hadn't been to the border, just like she's never been to Europe. That was her argument on that one. I mean, Kamala Harris, you're exactly right. 4 years of Kamala and Biden. Even watching Trump today and yesterday, I think back and I go, wow, isn't it amazing to have a real leader again running the country, as opposed to Joe Biden's auto pen?
So you've got her AOC.
Yeah.
I mean, could you imagine? I mean, she can't even answer a basic question about geopolitics.
No, she can't.
Which is like just Democrat policy that's existed for decades. I see this sort of bringing Pete Buttigieg back into the fray now. There was some article this week about how he'd grown a beard or something.
Okay.
I mean, it's not that hard. I've done it. And Gavin Newsom. And like, I hate to say it, but like Newsom seems to be the best of a bad bunch.
I agree with you. I think he's definitely the strongest performer. I think last year I was thinking maybe AOC is actually going to get a lot more support behind her.
Yeah.
She's young and she ticks the boxes. She's kind of,
Bernie
Mamdani's
Sanders
supporter.
has been pushing her really hard.
Right.
Like every time he comes out for a rally or event now, she's with him. So he's, from what I can tell, trying to basically set her up as his successor. Because, I don't know, he's about 175, so he's got to disappear at some point, right? But Bernie Sanders has had umpteen goes at the Democratic nomination, and he's never made it. So it may almost be the kind of kiss of death for AOC if she's going to go down that road, because Bernie's always been sort of in the game, but he's never been able to get to the top of the game. So if that's what AOC is going to do, I can't see how she thinks she'd do anything.
But I think the biggest problem for AOC is AOC, a bit like Kamala Harris.
Right.
She struggles. I mean, watching her in Munich, and she had months to prepare for this speech, and then she just made a fool of herself. She couldn't answer such a basic question about China and Taiwan. She revealed she didn't know where Venezuela is. It was so bad to watch.
But she's the ultimate example of a dumb person who thinks they are smart. And you can see when she's speaking the cogs going over in her head. And as she's saying this stuff, she's going, wow, this is brilliant. Like, this is profound. This will be in the history book.
Even the 30-second pause when she was asked that question about China, and it was just this. I can't do it here because it's got to bore our audience. I'll be switching off. But it was 40 seconds or something until she started to answer.
Well, you do
wishy-washy answer. But
like, did she walk away from that and go, I that up today? Do you reckon? I don't reckon she would. I don't think she has the ability to self-reflect like that. She thinks her you-know-what doesn't stink. And it shows in the way she behaves. And people like that, if they ever actually get near power, are really dangerous.
It's dangerous, isn't it?
Because they don't know what they're doing.
They don't know what they're doing. We don't know like Biden, towards the end, when he was obviously in such a bad mental state, no one knew who was actually running the country. It was his staff, because Biden had no idea what was going on. So we had AOC just embarrassing herself in Munich, and then we had Marco Rubio, I thought, delivering such an outstanding speech. Thought it was very warm to the Europeans while also still pushing some of his strong messaging that this mass migration is not a good thing for Europe. We're seeing that. It kind of made me think, when it comes to 2028, is it JD Vance or is it Rubio? Who would Trump support?
I would have thought JD Vance. Vance, I think, is more personable. And look, you want to talk about people in Trump's orbit. People come in and out of Trump's orbit all the time. And, of course, Rubio's one who's been distant and come back and whatever. But, I would personally be putting Vance up. I think he's got the goods. He's young. He presents well. He's good looking, if I may say so, as a fellow bearded bloke. And he speaks exceptionally well.
Yeah,
he's a really good foil to Donald Trump, because Trump, as we've talked about, is quite funny and he's got weird cadence and he sort of says things in a whimsical way. And JD Vance has sort of the political inclinations of Donald Trump in maybe a tighter package, as it were. Like he's more conventional in the way he presents, but he just says stuff with great clarity. And you kind of go, why has no one else said that? And JD Vance just has an ability to say it, whereas Rubio is probably a bit more in the typical mould of a presidential candidate, right? Like a bit more circumspect, bit more reserved, not the kind of bloke that you would expect to sort of have the erraticism of a Donald Trump that you may get a little bit of in JD Vance. I guess the question is, where is the American electorate at? Like, do they want to stay on the Trump theme, or do they want to go back to what has always kind of existed? And I'm not suggesting that Rubio would do the like establishment Republican thing, but he presents much more like an establishment Republican candidate than JD Vance would. And I suspect that Trump would want to maintain the MAGA rage, as it were, and Vance is probably the best guy to do that.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I feel like last year I would have said JD Vance, and obviously with Trump picking him as vice president. And I completely agree. I mean, he is such a strong performer. You see him in interviews, you can put him anywhere, and he's brilliant. But I just feel like in the last few months, Rubio is really starting to shine as a bit of the star of the administration.
He's
with
proven himself
Venezuela,
capable.
even right now with Iran, and you can really see how much confidence and faith Trump has in him.
Yeah, he's certainly proven himself capable. But it's you got to think about more than just Trump. It's about what the rest of America wants. I mean, Trump was a man who was there. He was the right man at the right time, essentially. And of course, lost in 2020, and we can debate the merits of what happened there. But after the Biden experiment, they said, we need that guy back, right? He was the right man for the right moment, and he's basically rebuilt the Republican Party, turned it into something different to what it was 10 years ago, or a bit over 10 years ago, before he became president in 2016, because America was ripe for it. They needed an alternative. So is Rubio the man for the job? I don't know. He's capable, but I'm not sure that he's the MAGA face, if you get what I mean. It's
going to be so interesting, isn't it? I mean, it's the Republican Party without Donald Trump. I'm sure he's still going to be a key figure beyond. But apparently today, Rachel Maddow on MSN Now is still pushing this. Trump wants to run for a third term. I mean, they don't understand. I know Trump says it, and it's quite funny, which he's brilliant at. But some of the leftist media, they're convinced that we've got there's a dictator instead of a duly elected president.
I think they want to be trolled. It's like he says this stuff knowing that he's trolling them.
Yeah.
And they just tip straight into it. They're just like, yeah, he's going to go for a third term. Like, did they not know that he's actually making fun of them? Clearly not, because they keep buying into it.
Imagine being in an MS Now newsroom. I mean, and they're watching the press conference and they're watching Donald Trump suggest, hey, 2028, and he winks at them and, should I run again? And instead of laughing, they start crying. They go into meltdown.
Why do they call it MS Now, by the way? Like
MSNBC.
MSNBC is a name that in America kind of means something. And then they went with MS Now.
Now. Yeah, it's a pretty dumb name. I think Ben Shapiro calls it MS Then, or just like... And it's not a great network either. I mean, looking at their analysis of what is unfolding in the Middle East, it's just tears. And Rachel Maddow was also upset that Trump didn't give the IRGC some instructions of how to surrender, as if that would make all the difference.
As if they can't work it out for themselves how to do it. I mean, they are the IRGC, right?
Yeah, thank you, but they've
only been
that
instrumental
analysis
in running around.
Yeah. No, they need that analysis from Rachel Maddow. She knows best.
Absolutely, that's who I get my geopolitical analysis from. I mean, if you were the Ayatollah, you'd be watching MS Now all the time, wouldn't you? I mean, there's of course the Ayatollah and the mullahs and whatever in Iran. They'd have no problem with a short-haired lesbian on television in the United States telling them what to do, would they?
I know, it's wild.
This is the point. It's the chickens for KFC thing. Why do these people keep thinking that they're friends of Iran, or that Iran would be friends of them? I mean, the first opportunity, they'd throw you off the top of a tall building.
It is unbelievable. Caleb Bond, I've had so much fun. Thank you so much for joining us on Power Hour Deep Dive.
My pleasure.
Great to speak with you. I'll speak to you soon.
See you soon.
And that is Power Hour Deep Dive. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to Sky News Australia on YouTube.